Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, this is a video just strictly about Tyson Fury. You know, no Glovegate, no Wilder stuff, just Tyson Fury. Because we've been so focused on Glovegate and all the controversy that we haven't really have. I really have had a chance to give Tyson Fury, in my opinion, his proper credit. But not even just proper credit. There's a lot of things about Tyson Fury that I do want to say as a fighter. Okay. Now, you guys see the title of the video, and I mean what I say, and I say what I mean. Tyson Fury is an all-time great heavyweight, and Tyson Fury would have been heavyweight champion and competed in any era of heavyweight boxing. I know a lot of you guys out there, especially the older heads who lived through the Tyson, Lewis, Bo, Holyfield eras, the Larry Holmes era, the Ali era. Maybe even if you're really old and you watch my channel, if you live through the Marciano era, you're probably listening to me saying this right now and you're saying, well, what is this four-eyed, nerdy looking, youngin' know about heavyweight boxing? Well, I know that we've never seen anything like Tyson Fury in heavyweight boxing, because has there been very tall heavyweights in the past of yesteryear that were taller than Tyson Fury? Yeah, there was a guy named Nikolai Valuev who was pushing about 7 feet tall. There's been many failed basketball players who were just as tall or slightly shorter than Tyson Fury that failed as heavyweights. We had, if we want to go back all the way back in the day, we had big stiff guys like Primo Carnera who picked up the heavyweight belt, but really didn't do anything as heavyweights. They didn't really they weren't guys like Primo Carnera. If you ask most people, he's not a guy that people genuinely tend to rate highly. You see what I'm saying? But Tyson Fury, just like if we look at what he's accomplished in the professional ranks so far, he has had the best body of work because he lost a lot of years of his career due to the things he went through after he beat Klitschko. But put into context his two biggest wins. If you put into context his two biggest wins. If you put into context his two biggest wins against, you had Vladimir Klitschko, when Vladimir Klitschko was one of the longest reigning heavyweight champions of all time. You had Deontay Wilder, who going into the fight had the highest, not one of the highest, not in the top, no, the highest KO percentage in the history of heavyweight boxing. He was a guy that many people, myself included, were talking about being the biggest heavyweight puncher that ever lived, okay? And what did he do with those two guys? Well, he folded one of them up by walking him down and knocking him out in Deontay Wilder. And then the other guy, Klitschko, he beat him by just boxing him from the outside and feinting him and using quick, subtle, herky-jerky movements to break his rhythm, offset any rhythm he had, and he never really got into the fight. So he had two big fights in his career, Tyson Fury. He had two big fights in his career, and he won them in different fashion. He beat the guy who was the second longest reigning heavyweight champion besides Joe Louis. He beat this guy who had the second longest title reign besides Joe Louis by outboxing him and offsetting him. And then 5 years later, he fights the heavyweight with the highest KO percentage in the history of the division. And he goes up to him, he walks him down and folds him up. How can this guy not be an all-time great? How can this guy, I know he still has part of his career. He's got four more fights left in him, maybe a third Wilder fight, maybe the Joshua undisputed fight. Maybe there's a fight with Dillian White that happens, or somebody else beyond those guys. But let's just say he wins two more fights. Let's say he holds true to his word. It's two more fights, and then he's out of here. Okay, so let's say he fights Wilder the third fight. He does what most people expect. He beats Deontay Wilder the third fight. Then he goes and fights the great Anthony Joshua. He knocks out Anthony Joshua, or beats Anthony Joshua, becomes the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. He would retire 33-0. Listen to this. He would retire 33-0 as the undefeated, undisputed, lineal heavyweight champion of the world. Okay? Let's really wrap our minds around that. The undefeated, undisputed, lineal heavyweight champion of the world with wins against Vladimir Klitschko, Deontay Wilder, Derek Chisora, okay, and maybe Anthony Joshua. That's not a bad resume at all. And I think when you consider also his fighting style, the ways he's beating these guys, the different ways he's beating these guys, when it's all said and done, this guy will have a legitimate case. I'm telling you, take it to the bank and take it to the bank and cash your mother-loving checks on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. This dude will be in that conversation. He will be in that conversation for one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. Maybe even the top 5 heavyweight of all time. You know, teetering around that 5 mark. You know, I really believe this to the core of my bones. I've always said, I was saying this even before he was boxing again. I always said that Tyson Fury ever came back and he ever recaptured 70% of the fighter he was in the first Klitschko fight. There's not a heavyweight on this planet right now that can beat him. And I hold true to those words. So, I'm looking forward to seeing how the rest of his career unfolds, you know, because boxing is the theater of the unexpected. Like right now, Tyson Fury's on top of the world. Like he's on top of the world. He is the best heavyweight in the world by 10,000 miles. That's not even close. And if you say anything about Anthony Joshua, well, listen, Anthony Joshua is only a champion because Tyson Fury left the sport in the first place. So we're not really worried about Anthony Joshua. Tyson Fury is the best heavyweight in the world by 10,000 miles. And unless somebody beats him, I'm not changing my stance on that because that's been my stance on Tyson Fury for about 5 years now, and it's not changing. So someone special is gonna have to come along and change BT's mind about Tyson Fury, because I've always believed in Tyson Fury. I've always said that this guy, since the Klitschko fight, you know, because that's the fight that really made me a believer. When I saw him beat Vladimir Klitschko, even though it was a boring fight and it wasn't the most exciting fight, and it's not a fight that I really have gone back and watched many times in the 5 years since it passed, he still beat him in Dusseldorf in front of 55,000 people, and it was his first big fight of that magnitude, and it was easy for him, you know. In the fights that matter the most, and I want you guys to think about that, in the fights that matter the most in the career of Tyson Fury, they were the easiest fights for him. The bigger the stage was, the better he fought, and it's only the great ones that have. It's only the great ones that can do that, that can perform at that level. The fights that he struggled the most in were fights that, you know, weren't the biggest in his career. Maybe they were early in his career when he was at a much younger, more immature stage of his career, like the John McDermott fight. He fought John McDermott, who was a seasoned pro, and he had success. Or John McDermott, in many people's eyes, got robbed in that fight. So you can say John McDermott is a low-key legend because he beat a guy in Tyson Fury. You know, in the eyes of many people, he beat a guy. He didn't get the decision, but he beat a guy that many people believe has a great chance to go down as the best British heavyweight of all time. Maybe even better than the great Lennox Lewis. It's possible. It is possible. Whether you like it or not, it is possible. So we're going to see how the rest of his career plays out. But I wanted to just take the time in this video to say that Tyson Fury is an all-time great, special, creme de la creme, top of the line, pound for pound, cut from a different cloth. He's a different breed, and we need to appreciate him now while he's still here, because there's going to come a time when he hangs up the gloves, and I think that time is going to be very soon, and you guys are really going to miss him when he's gone. So, I mean, listen, a 6'9", athletic, boxer, puncher, heavyweight. He can box you from the outside, like a Larry Holmes or a, you know, Muhammad Ali type of a fighter. You know, he's shown that in the past. He can do that. Maybe not. Maybe it doesn't look as good, or it isn't as aesthetically pleasing as an Ali or a Larry Holmes. But he can still do that. He can still box you from the outside, slip and slide, make you move, miss shots with ease. He moves like a 168 pounder, 175 pounder. But then he can also, if he needs to get down and dirty and he needs to get in them trenches and fold you up, he can walk you down like a Kronk fighter, like he showed in the Deontay Wilder rematch, like he showed in the Steve Cunningham fight early in his career. So, you know, this Tyson Fury, he's something special, and I'm making this video to talk positive about Tyson Fury, because I think without him, to be honest with you guys, without Tyson Fury, if he never came back, if he never ever came back to the heavyweight division, we'd still be sitting here talking about Wilder Joshua negotiations, because them two didn't want to fight each other. You know, I think Joshua wanted to fight. You know, we've already been there. We've already been there and hashed this out. There's no need to go there again. But I'm just saying, these two would still be in negotiations if Tyson Fury never came back and shook the division up and brought some excitement and some personality to the damn thing. So, you know, thank God for Tyson Fury. God bless Tyson Fury, and, you know, may the rest of his career be fun. I actually hope that he retires undefeated. I want him to retire as the undefeated, undisputed lineal heavyweight champion of the world. I understand that's going to be very difficult because of, obviously there's a lot of good fighters. Wilder is still dangerous. Whether I think he's going to fold up Wilder or not, the reality is Wilder is still a very dangerous fighter. He can still punch, so he can always land that big shot. So I'll never fully count out Wilder. And then Joshua's a good fighter in his own right, and he seems to still have room for growth, and that growth's going to continue to happen. Starting with his next fight against Pulev. So if he comes through that, that'll continue to do wonders for his ever-growing confidence and boxing style. So these guys are good fighters. They're world-class fighters. They're some of the best fighters in the world. And then even if he fights these guys, if somehow he has a fight where it goes to the cards against these guys, then who knows? Maybe he gets robbed. We saw when Larry Holmes was getting ready to break Rocky Marciano's record or tie his record. We saw what they did for them, what they did to him in Vegas, and they robbed him of history. So we've seen things like this before. We've seen scenarios like this before in boxing, where we get a great fighter who's winning a lot of fights and has a chance to retire undefeated, and maybe the judges steal a win from him, or he just loses a fight he shouldn't lose. So fingers crossed. But I think Tyson Fury has a great chance to retire as the only undefeated heavyweight champion, lineal heavyweight champion, since Rocky Marciano. And what great company he would be in if he could do that. And I know a lot of people say, well, Rocky Marciano was overrated. He didn't, he fought Joe Louis when he was old. He fought Jesse Joe Walcott when he was old. He fought Ezra Charles when he was old. That's what everybody says. But then they never talk about early in his career when he fought Harry Kid Matthews, and he was a fighter that many people at the time were picking to give Rocky Marciano some serious problems, and Rocky Marciano folded him up at the blue steel chair. They don't talk about when he fought what's that guy's name? There was this one guy he fought. I can't remember his name, but he was an underdog early in his career. He fought this one guy as an underdog. Oh, Rex Lane. He fought Rex Lane early in his career, Rocky Marciano, as the underdog. This is before Joe Louis. This is before Jesse Joe Walcott. This is before all those big fights we know Rocky Marciano for. He fought Rex Lane. Rex Lane was a guy that had scored some big wins in the heavyweight division. I believe he beat Ezra Charles as well. And he was an underdog. Marciano was an underdog, and he folded Rex Lane up too. So Marciano was a true champion, no matter what you guys say. I made a video about Rocky Marciano, so if you guys want to see the little mini documentary I did about Rocky Marciano, check it out. I'll leave it right here in the card for you. But the only message I want to get across in this video to the boxing fans out there is that Tyson Fury is a special fighter. We need to appreciate him now while he's still here, because he has a chance to become the only undisputed heavyweight champion, retire as the only undefeated lineal heavyweight champion, joining the great Rocky Marciano. So, I want to ask you guys, what do you think? Will Tyson Fury retire undefeated? Let me know in the comments down below. Take the time to subscribe, like I say in every single one of these videos. You can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys.